Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. My name is Nootmad and welcome back to another Borderlands 3 video, and today marks episode 1 of a new series I'm starting called Trash or Treasure, where I'm going to go over some underrated or underutilized weapons that people don't really talk about and try and see if they're actually worth using in any build that you run in this game currently. Now, just for the sake of consistency, I'm going to set a benchmark or like a minimum benchmark for the weapons to be able to complete, and that's basically going to be hard mobbing areas. So things like Slaughter Shaft, Conrad's Hold, and the Anvil are going to be the 3 main areas that I test these weapons in to see if I can give them the judgment whether they are trash or whether they are treasure. Now, I would typically run these to the raids like Maliwan Takedown or Guardian Takedown, but let's be honest here, a lot of weapons in this game aren't really raid capable, and if I was to just only put in weapons that are able to do the Maliwan Takedown or Guardian Takedown, this series is going to end by now, and I won't be able to talk about more weapons in that are currently in this game. For the sake of simplicity and just for the sake of consistency, the 3 main areas that I'm going to focus on for weapons to be able to succeed in is Slaughter Shaft, Conrad's Hold, and the Anvil. So, the star of today's episode is the Proprietary license. But just before we get into the video, I just want to let you guys know that I've been streaming on Twitch on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 AM Eastern Time. So, if you just want to join in and hang out while we work on random builds, do takedowns together, or just meme around in general, I'll be putting the link to my Twitch in a pinned comment down below. But now that's all out of the way, let's just jump straight into the video, shall we? Okay, so I think a great place to kick off this video is to where to actually get yourself a proprietary license. So, to get one for yourself, you need DLC 3, and you need to spawn at Obsidian Forest, more specifically, Crone's Contentment. Now, Hydrogoyan is a bit to the far right side of the map, and I'm in the background right now, you get to see the route I take. Basically, it's a pretty straightforward path. You just have to loop around a little corner, go through a shack, take the jump pad, keep following the path right in front of you, drop down into a cabin, and then there's a little opening to the left of you. Zip through that, there's another jump pad, jump up there, and then it'll take you to an opening where there's a very huge cave, and Hydrogoyan himself spawns a bit to the right. So there's 3 little caves in front of you. Hydrogoyan spawns to the right, as you can see in the gameplay. And yeah, that whatever that animal is, I guess, he's the one that drops the proprietary license. The proprietary license can drop in any element and is a Hyperion SMG. And my honest opinion on this gun is that it's literally a jack of all trades, and I mean that in the sense that this gun mimics a lot of manufacturer gimmicks. So, because it's a Hyperion SMG, as it is its manufacturer, it keeps its weapon shield, but also its sort of accuracy over time increasing. So it makes it a very pinpoint laser-like weapon to shoot and very easy to get crits with. But because of its gimmick that it basically copies other manufacturers, critical hits also ricochet, much like Jacob's, and body shots apply stickies, kind of like Torg. Now, those stickies do proc things like Skagdan, which is really great to be able to boost your damage even more. And so, yeah, that's basically the weapon in a nutshell. So, as I said before, it can spawn an LE element. And as far as the anointment goes, I highly recommend consecutive hits. Now, you can use a 2-mag anointment, so things like Incense, Radiation, or Cryo. Next 2-mag is fine on this. But if you want to maximize the amount of DPS with this weapon, I highly recommend using the consecutive hits anoint. Now, that's the weapon itself out of the way, and as far as the skill tree goes, so initially I went heavy investment into bottomless mags to get myself Moze's capstone, which is Forge. Now, while it did work out quite well, I realized that because of the base magazine size of this weapon, which is already in the 40s, not to mention the fact that you're boosting magazine size through the stats you have on your gear, you can easily get your magazine size for this gun to about 70. Now, with a magazine size that large, you realistically don't need Forge, because we have 2 points in redistribution, which is Moze's ammo regeneration skill, which is Moze's skill that gives ammo regeneration on crit, being at 2 out of 1 because that Might class mod boosts it. That itself gives us 10% ammo regeneration, and not to mention we also have Cloud of Lead, which makes every 4th shot not consume ammo. So when you think about it, we're basically getting 25% of a magazine fire for free. So combine those 2 skills and you realistically don't need Forge. So I opted to ignore that and spend the rest of those points into Shield Retribution to max out Drowning and Brass and Experimental Munitions. So the final tree I settled on is a 3-tree build, and is nothing too special that I typically would run on my channel. Just a quick sort of overview of it. Here's bottomless mags, Nothing too special. Once again, we have 2 points in redistribution, 5 in Cloud of Lead to give us that sort of ammo efficiency and ammo regeneration. We have Scorching RPMs to boost our critical hit damage, as well as our fire rate. Because this gun is already has a solid fire rate, being able to boost it a lot more makes it a lot nicer to use, and be able to get those extra Minesweeper procs because we'll be able to fire the gun a lot faster. We have Stoke the Embers, mostly because we have Experimental Munitions and Skagden, and like I mentioned before, those sticky projectiles proc Skagden, so it does help us deal an extra ton of damage. So that's basically Bottomless Mags out of the way. As far as Demolition Woman goes, once again, nothing too special. We have our Minesweeper class mod boosting our Torque Motion by 4, giving us a total of 9 points, giving us 54% splash damage. Now, that's really huge. Alternatively, you can use a Minesweeper class mod to boost Skagden. Right now, Skagden is incredibly busted, gives you 93% incendiary damage per point. So if you can boost this by another 4, you're effectively giving yourself something in the ballpark of 800% incendiary damage, which is absolutely insane. However, just much rather having the extra splash radius and splash damage from Torque Cross Motion. I just find that nicer to use, but the option is there if you want to choose to boost fire in the Skagden instead. And so yeah, that's basically Demolition Woman Tree. We have short fuse because at the end of the day it's one of Moze's best damage skills. No reason not to pick that. And we have our Shield Retribution Tree. Once again, I decided to abandon points from Moze's Bottomless Mags tree to max out Drowning in Brass and Experimental Munitions to give us 60% gun damage and incendiary damage on crit, which can be boosted by, once again, by things like Stoke the Ember. So that's basically the tree out of the way, and as far as the gun's performance itself, I'd say it's incredibly solid. Now as far as the elemental coverage for this gun, I highly recommend getting yourself a radiation one, as well as a corrosive or cryo variant. Now I say that because radiation weapons suck against armor. It's just naturally how the elemental resistances work with each other. Radiation already does a lot less damage to armor, as opposed to something like cryo or corrosive, which do extra damage to that. So if you're planning to run this gun in areas where there's a lot of armored enemies, I highly recommend making sure you have at least a cryo or corrosive version. Now in the gameplay in the background, I didn't have one on me, but as you can see, this gun still kicks ass, does a ton of damage, and especially with the right build and the right anointment, it works really well. Now, speaking of the build, the actual gear I'm using is a Radiation Old God to be able to boost my radiation damage a bit more. Because I'm running a Minesweeper class mod that mimics the element for the micro grenade, that means those micro grenades will be radiation, which can be further boosted by the Old God. We have a Merv-tacular Radiation Hex, something that's been my personal favorite for a little while now. You can of course use any sort of grenade that works well with Moze's means of destruction and vampire skills, but because this gun has solid armor regeneration through redistribution and Cloud of Lead, you don't really need as many splash procs from your grenade. It's mostly just here for vampire to keep yourself alive. And as far as the relic goes, I highly recommend a Snowdrift Victory Rush, but if you're doing boss killing, I highly recommend getting yourself a Pearl. Now I say that because in most bossing situations, there aren't many ads to kill, and the chances of badasses spawning during those boss fights are not that high, and you can't really consistently rely on that to be able to get your extra damage from that. So this is the sort of one-off situations where I recommend you get yourselves a Pearl, which is a DLC 2 artifact. So yeah, that's basically the weapon in a nutshell, and yeah, as you can see in the background, it absolutely slaps. Really good weapon to use, and honestly I'd say it's a treasured weapon. I'd highly recommend you guys to get one for yourselves. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on the proprietary license and where I think it sits with Moze specifically. If you did enjoy this video, do let me down in the comments below, and if you did, once again, please consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button. Helps me out a ton and helps keep you guys updated to future content. But yeah, aside from that, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.